Want to see how a penny can help you loosen up control and relax into some creative self-care art making? It's a fun new art experiment this week. Welcome to Better with Art. I'm Melinda, and I'm here to encourage you to reclaim your creativity and practice creative self-care with a weekly small art prompt that can be done in an art journal or on paper if you don't have one. I tried some different neurographic line and shape making this week, filming for a video, but nothing that was very satisfying. And I've decided to try something completely new, combining things I've done and something I came across on Instagram, of course, but modifying it for this experiment. As you saw, I had a penny, and you'll need a penny or another coin of a similar size. I also have a Sharpie and a finer point pen. I'm going to start by drawing some freehand circles. You know how I enjoy my circles. And some of them can go off the page. A frame is very helpful for this project. Draw a few circles wherever you see fit. And now, instead of our typical wavy lines, we're going to use the penny to make some a little more fractured. So take your pen and push your penny along your paper. I found if I tried to steer it, that makes it go a little bit off course, which is not a bad thing. There isn't supposed to be a particular course. That's the point of the penny. But when I tried to push it in the direction I preferred, it preferred to go the other direction. Life is kind of like that sometimes, isn't it? Sometimes when we try to push things to make them go the way we want them to, it doesn't turn out the way we'd like. And that's okay. Just think of how many things you would have missed out on if life had only gone the way you wanted it to. And that will be the focus of our journaling for this week. What is a situation in your life that didn't go the way you intended? That didn't go the way you pictured it in your mind? What worked out better for you than if it had gone the way you had hoped or dreamed or even prayed? I neglected to mention that we will also need some color for this project. Colored pencils or crayons should be good for this, or markers, but you want to be sure you have enough different colors in the same family, as in yellows, oranges, reds, blues, greens, purples. I'll be using yellows into orange and blues into purple, and we'll talk about that a little bit more in a moment. Right now, I am going to speed things up. You get the picture. It is interesting and fun to make the lines, and I felt like I had too many big gaps, but so often my penny would just take my pen right back toward a bunch of the other lines and crowd them in together. One thing I forgot from the reel was that the lines didn't all go from edge to edge. Some of them stopped against another line. I wasn't sure how I felt about that, but I tried it a little more. When you are happy with your lines, I may have more than I technically need. Whatever makes you happy. Next comes some neurographic softening, but just more delicately. I'm not sure how I would word the different way we're doing this. But it's definitely finer than what I usually do, and that's partly due to the size of the pen. Well, it's largely due to the size of the pen. I was a little messy when I started, and going over the lines as I'm typically used to does not work well for this. Just focus on the pointy places where the lines cross and make them not pointy. Next will come color, inspired by the original reel, which was of a fractured pumpkin. I will be tracking it down and sharing a link in the description. You can also find links to the materials used in this video and links to sign up for the private Facebook group Better with Art community and to be notified of upcoming online and in-person workshops. If you're working with pumpkins, you are also working with orange. I'm going to be working with 2 sets of color, oranges into yellows and blues into purple. Before I get started, I'm going to test out my colors to see how they look. So I'm swatching my colors on a piece of scrap paper. Those 2 are basically the same. Now I'll speed things up as I swatch and discard things that aren't quite right or are too similar. I'll be using my yellows and my oranges within my circles, my blues and purples surrounding them. We aren't working with pumpkins, but it's where the inspiration came from, and I'm going more yellow than I would if I was sticking with the pumpkin thing. In each of my circles, I use each of my yellow and orange tones. I guess the word would actually be hue, because I haven't added any white or black or gray to them. They're just the colors they are. We've talked about color theory a little bit, and this part isn't the part that this particular video involves, but a hue is a pure color, your base color. If you add white, you create a tint. If you add black, you create a shade. A tone is when you mix a hue with gray, which mutes it. If we are talking about color theory as far as our yellows and oranges go, these would be analogous colors. They're next to each other on the color wheel, as are the blues and violets and the colors between them. The drama comes when you put all those together. Yellow and purple and orange and blue are complementary colors. They're across from each other on the color wheel, and I know we've worked with complementary colors before. We've worked with blending them to create muted autumn colors. But when you put complementary colors next to each other, they make each other pop. So grab some colored pencils or crayons or markers, a fine tip marker like a Sharpie, and a finer marker pen. Create a frame, make some circles, push a penny to make some unique and unpredictable lines, and soften the points some. Different than usual, we are leaving our lines kind of jangly, and that's okay. The final step is to color. This project is another good one for if you only have a few minutes in a day to sit down and do art, but you might have just a few minutes another day. It's also good if you have a longer time to sit down and practice creative self-care. You don't need a lot of time to practice creative self-care. And as the materials I use in this video and all of my Better with Art creative self-care art prompt videos, your materials don't need to cost a lot of money to reclaim your creativity. And now it's time to take another look at our writing prompt about a situation in your life that didn't go as you hoped, dreamed, planned, prayed, believed would go. Maybe, as I mentioned before, it turned out in an obviously better way. But maybe the situation that came to mind for you not only didn't go the way you had wanted, but you also didn't like the way it turned out in the end. Maybe you are even still living in that. A situation that you'd rather not be living in, but it's the way life is right now. And maybe you even resent feeling like you have to choose to make the best of it. Regardless of whether we love or hate or are ambivalent about various situations in our life, it's always a good idea to look for the true good. And remember that although there will always be things we can't control, we are not our circumstances. Experiences affect us, but don't define us. And there will always be beauty to find when we look for it. So write about that thing that did not go as you would have chosen, and write about the good that came of it. And if there didn't seem to be enough good, look back from where you are now to find some. Or write about how you will choose to make some. Life can be hard, but you've made it this far, and it's not the end. And you can do more than just survive. You can thrive. And I'm grateful for the opportunity to remind you that taking time to make art is not a waste of time. It's part of how you're wired. If you've made it to the end of this video, you know that making art is good for your mental health and helps you be stronger in who you are. Take time to make art and look for beauty.